Hello, everyone. You've turned into the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance. Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the Indiana State Police Alliance. I'm your host, Sergeant Rich Myers with the Indiana State Police Public Information Office. We've got a couple of guests here with me today that never had in here. Brand new guests. We got Roger LOGSTON, Senior Trooper Detective with the Indiana State Police. Roger, thank you for being here. Appreciate you coming in here.
Thanks for inviting
me. You're very welcome. And Kenneth Allen. Kenneth, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having us.
I appreciate you guys coming in. Kenneth is the program director for the Indiana Trafficking Victims Assistance Program, or how do you say this? ITVAP. ITVAP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. ITVAP. ITVAP. And we're going to talk about human trafficking today on this program, something that is I was surprised when we were talking about before we got on here that Indiana really has this problem, and throughout the United States and everywhere that this is a program or a problem that is quite prevalent, and people aren't really aware of it. But I guess it's quite something that you're looking at not only for girls but boys and young men and young women throughout the United States.
Yeah, we're looking at. They say that's the second largest criminal industry compared to second to the drug trade.
Really.
And
probably goes hand in hand a lot of times with the drug trade. I'm guessing maybe
it could.
Yeah,
it could. And the reason they say it's such a large money industry is in trafficking. Other than the drugs, say if you're doing a drug in the drug trade, you buy the product, you sell the product, it's gone.
Right.
In trafficking, if you have
you got a renewable source.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over, and that's where they generate the revenue.
Yeah.
$150 billion a year.
Wow.
Is what they estimated.
Is this United States kids? Or are we seeing kids? And I'm saying kids. What's the age we're looking at here?
We've seen victims as young as 7 years old here in the state of Indiana.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And as old as?
There's been some debate about the average age. There's some sources that say it's, 12 and 13. There are other sources that say it's kind of 15. So we're kind of going back and forth on that. But we've seen victims as young as 7 all the way up to 15, 16, 12, and 13, all different ranges. Are
these victims United States victims, Indiana victims? Are they coming in through other countries, or what are we seeing?
The majority of youth trafficked in the United States are United States citizens.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Are these people that they know, they don't know? How does this all start? How does it work?
Absolutely. 91% of the victims that are trafficked by people that they know. And so when you look at the statistics, both here in the Midwest and nationally, it's usually someone they have a relationship with. It's either someone who they suspect as a boyfriend, a relative, or somebody close to the family. It's very rare that young people are trafficked by complete strangers or told someone that they don't know. A lot of times we try to dispel the myth that, it's somebody in a white truck or a white van coming to the neighborhood just snatching kids up. Yeah. It's usually family members, friends, or who the young people suspect as a boyfriend that are actually trafficking them.
Okay. Are we finding that this not only involves sexual acts too, but maybe other acts where they're forcing them to work or do something else that they're not wanting to do?
Absolutely. A lot of times, and I know Roger can speak to this, a lot of times that, when they are being trafficked per se, a lot of times they're forced to do things like steal groceries or steal, personal items,
right, so
that the trafficker doesn't have to pay for those items. And as a result, if you get caught, not only do you have the charges for, the act, but you have the charges for, possibly shoplifting or, maybe carjacking and selling cars and things like that. So this crime can lead to other crimes if they're being, pressured to do these things by the traffickers, and a lot of times they are pressured to do these other crimes as well.
So, Roger, how is the state police involved in this, and what's our role in working with ITVAP?
Well, let me clarify a couple things on the human trafficking. In Indiana, on the criminal statute, there are basically two aspects of trafficking.
Okay.
It could be sex trafficking, which Kenneth said is if you're forced, you could be induced by force, fraud, or coercion to commit a sexual act.
Okay.
And then you have labor trafficking, and that's when somebody is used force, fraud, or coercion to maybe pay off a debt, or I know in some instances we've heard about the massage parlors
The sweatshops.
Rated, yes, and these workers didn't have a choice.
Right.
Possibly they were forced to work by somebody else.
And we've heard the excuses before that if you come and from other countries, if you come here to the United States, work in this factory so long, we'll get you in the United States and make you a citizen or whatever. That happens, right?
It does. It does. Rarely is that what we kind of see in Indiana, though.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we see more and investigate more with the state police and other agencies the sex trafficking aspect of it, because prostitution is an illegal crime.
Yeah.
So we have the criminal predicate right there, the prostitution part that helps facilitate the investigation.
But they could be brought here under the same nemesis that you do this for a while, then we'll let you go and you go do whatever you want to do or something like that.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So go back with our partnership with the state police and ITVAP. And it requires an investigation or the awareness of human trafficking. It entails a lot of people, and not just law enforcement. And that's why we partner with ITVAP, because community awareness, training.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. Do you find that difficult? Do you not, for people to lock into, hey, I think I see something here, but maybe not? Do you find you're getting a lot of tips per se, as if you see a burglary going down or if you see some other criminal act going on, they call the police right away, but maybe people aren't locking into what they're seeing out there that could be right in front of their face?
I think what's been helpful to us as an organization over the last year, we've been able to train over 20,000 people in the state of Indiana in all 92 counties. We have 10 regional coordinators that actually go out and have presentations in the community with various organizations, churches, schools, and different community groups. And as a result of this education piece or this awareness piece, we are starting to see an increase of tips come into the various hotlines. And so education is so critical about this issue. A lot of people, when they hear about human trafficking, they don't think that this is an issue that happens in Indiana. And one of the things I think makes us a hot spot for the issue is because we are in the middle of the Midwest. We are the crossroads of America.
Right.
And so it's very easy for traffickers who, maybe particularly getting investigated in Gary to come down to Indianapolis or to go back over to Chicago or to be in Indianapolis and jet out to St. Louis if it starts getting hot, or go back to Cincinnati or Louisville, because we have easy access to, basically being the crossroads of America.
Roger, the state police, how long have we been involved with ITVAP and working with them?
I'm not sure the exact year. We've been partnered with IYSA and ITVAP for a couple of years, I believe.
Correct. ITVAP is a very new program. We actually just celebrate our year anniversary this past fall. And so we were awarded by the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute some funds to actually do this work. And we just got re-awarded for another 2 years, which helped us expand. We started off with 5 regional coalition coordinators that had about 20 counties under their belt, which we found out that was a whole lot for them to have. And so now we have a staff of 10 regional coalition coordinators, and now they have about 10 counties that they're able to manage now a little bit better.
Well, again, you're listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance Cops for Kids. I'm speaking with Kenneth Allen from the ITVAP, Indiana Trafficking Victims Assistance Program. He's a program director for that group, and Roger LOGSTON, detective investigator for the Indiana State Police, working with the sex crimes and human trafficking point. So these young people that are found, if we get these people, what happens to them? We find out that they're being sex trafficked, and where does it go from there?
And I think that's why it's very important to have a collaboration of law enforcement. You have the prosecutors, the federal government, and then you have service providers who we have to assist. Obviously, if they're minors, the Department of Child Services have to be notified. But we also, a lot of times to interview the children, we'll need assistance through the service providers to do that.
Obviously.
They're the professionals that know how to speak with the children.
So you guys are equipped to do that also?
Not our organization per se, but one of the responsibilities of our regional coalition coordinators is building relationship with service providers that can provide those services. And so we try to have a good group of service providers that can actually provide these services to young people, whether they need housing, shelter, employment, etc. And so we have a good group of at least 21 providers currently, and we're currently trying to grow that list to have actually service providers all across the state, so that whether you find a young person in Gary or Evansville, that we have resources available for that particular young person in that area.
So you were talking earlier about the training that you give, and I guess you guys work together when you do this. Is there some place that people can go to request that training? And does it have to be, can it be law enforcement? Can it be civilian? Can it be fire? Anybody?
Absolutely, absolutely. Whosoever will let them come, we're willing to train as many as, a group
The
of
more
5.
eyes, the better.
Absolutely. So a group of 5 or a group of 500, we have the capacities to be able to serve. And so the best way for an organization to request training, if they're watching this video, is to visit our website at www.indySB.org and click the human trafficking tab. Okay. And under that tab, there's an opportunity to request a training. And all of our trainings are absolutely free. They don't cost anything. And so we'll come to any organization within all 92 counties of the state and provide that training to a group or to a group of individuals.
Is that kind of made for that particular group, or how long is your, what are they looking at for your training, the length of time and how?
Typically, our human trafficking one-on-one presentation is usually 60 to 90 minutes. Okay. That we can provide. And we do have some additional trainings for service providers that are a little bit more advanced than the 90 minutes.
Okay. Roger, what are we looking at in the future with the state police with these people? Are we on the forefront? Is this something that we're expanding, or how many of you are out there doing this?
There's only a couple troopers that are actually doing this, and I believe that we're looking to expand. But this, again, is very new.
Right.
And that's why the education is very important, and not only with, as Kenneth said, the civilians who would be aware and looking out for these things to report the tips. It's also important for us to educate other law enforcement agencies, because if someone in, say, the southern part of Indiana reports it to their local agency, they may say the same thing, the myths that we thought before we spoke, that this human trafficking can't be going on in Indiana.
Yeah.
So it's very important to also educate the law enforcement departments, and that's kind of what we're doing around the state, also going to different agencies. And
I know I see the headlines too, and I'm sure this is true, and something that you put out during the Final Four, the Indy 500, the big events that we have in Indy. Do you find that is a kind of a hot spot that this comes in when those big sporting events and other big events come into Indy? Oh,
yes. As far as, I'm not sure the percentage, but there's a website that some of the traffickers use, or even some of the escorts use, the backpage.com.
I see.
And they've noticed on these larger sporting events, they'll double and triple the ads during those times, because people come in throughout the country. And
so that's something that...
Exactly. And some of those are just sex workers themselves, but then we also have to be aware, because there are also traffickers that are posting either adult women or children on that.
So probably the best thing we can do, we've got about a minute and a half left here, but if somebody sees something and they haven't got that gut feeling that something's not right here, let your local law enforcement, your state police, somebody know, and it can be investigated. And hopefully nothing is going on here, but it could be, and we need to look at it, obviously.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are a couple of resources that you can reach out to. If you suspect something, you can always reach out to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. And there are a couple of ways you can reach out to them. You can simply reach out to them via text, which is 233733. And you can simply just text help or info. So that's the way that you can communicate via text. You can also call the DCS hotline if you suspect something. And that number is 1-800-800-5556. And also, you can also visit the Trafficking Resource Center.org, which has a plethora of resources out there if you want to learn more information about trafficking or get some.
We'll put that website up.
Yes.
Well, we're down to our last 20 minutes, guys. Thank you for coming in. Very worthwhile information and something that probably not a lot of people are aware of, but hopefully this will get the information out.
Yes.
Thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Again, you've listened to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance, Cops for Kids. We'll talk to you again next week on the Roadshow. Roadshow out.